Hey, what's up, film goaters? First of all, excuse the sound quality. I'm on vacation, so this is my setup. Yes, I have a microphone sitting on top of my laptop balanced with some flowers in the back, so don't judge me. But anyway, I'm gonna take you through a quick little tutorial on how to do color replacement on Final Cut Pro 10. So just bear with me, check out this footage real quick, and we'll get right to it. Hey, now we back, man. Look, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and share with a friend, man. I appreciate the support. Now, first thing you want to do, you want to get the image, the hero shot, or whatever you want to call it, a shot that really has a lot of the image that you want to see in the video. All right, so the first thing we want to do, I shot this in log with the GH5. Preferably if you got a 10-bit codec to shoot in, I would choose that, but if you don't, it's not a major deal. You just have more color depth with 10-bit than 8-bit, so you can have a little more flexibility in post with the colors. But if you don't have 10-bit, don't worry, just follow along, and you just have to fine-tune a little bit more than I do. All right, so first thing we want to do, we want to hit the color tab once we have the image up, and we want to go ahead and add a color board. So the first thing I want to do is what I like to call it, bring the shot to natural, make it look normal. All right, so what I'm going to do first is add some contrast. So I added a color board. We'll go over here to exposure, all right, and I'm going to drag down my blacks or my shadows. All right, and forgive me, my laptop, I'm working on my laptop, so it's a little bit slower than my computer at home, so it might take, that's why you might see it freeze a little bit, but we'll still get it there. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm pulling down my shadows and I'm pulling up my highlights, and I just want to stretch out the image just enough to really start creating some contrast in my image. Alright, and then I want to pull down my gamma or my midtones just a little bit. All right, we're just trying to create separation and start to create some contrast in the image. And let's toggle that on and off to kind of see what we did. All right, and I definitely want some more contrast in this shot for sure. So I'm actually gonna pull down my gamma some more, because I don't want my blacks to be completely gone. And I'm starting to like this a little bit better. Let's go ahead and add another color board, and then let's go to the saturation tab on that color board. And let's go ahead and boost that saturation all the way up. Boom, that looks good. And I like to add my saturation all the way up when I'm shooting log on GH5, particularly when I am trying to do color replacement and things of that nature. That way I have the most color information to work with as I continue to move. Now, if you need to adjust the saturation later after you get the image that you want, by all means, please do so. But for this particular one, I'm going to boost my saturation all the way up. So now I got, I guess you would kind of say, kind of a normal looking image. All right, looks like there's no real color grade on here. It just looked like I took a camera, shot it straight out of camera, and this is the image that we have. So this is the first step if you shot in log. If you didn't shoot in log and you shot in a standard profile, then it should look somewhat like this. So let's assume that you got the white balance right, the exposure right, and everything's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do, before I start adding my official grade or look, I want to go ahead and start replacing some of the colors. And while doing so, I want to make sure that I do not change my skin tones. I want my skin tones to stay looking the same or looking as natural as possible. So what I want to do is actually change the green trees probably to a purplish color, and the sky more of a teal, more like aqua, just something that'll kind of give me good color contrast off of my skin tones. See, the skin tones lay in kind of the orangish area, so The reason I chose purple and teal, because they're going to separate my skin very well and it's going to look dope. So the next thing that I'm going to do, we're going to go down to hue and saturation curves. Let's add one of those. Now that we added the hue and saturation curves, we want to grab the green colors. All right, we want to mask them off where we only affecting those colors. All right, so there's this little tab up here in the corner. Click this and click Add Color Mask. Once you hit the color mask, you want to take the dropper and drag it across the green trees in the image. All right, and there you go. You should be able to see what it's grabbing. And as I'm dragging it across, I can see that I'm grabbing way too many colors, because in trees there's more than just green. There's yellows and oranges and stuff that kind of blend in with your skin tones. So we want to fine tune that mask. You want to click on View Masks here, and it shows you everything that you grabbed. See, I grabbed a lot of my skin as well. So what we want to do is come down here to the HSL. There's a little tab right here. If you don't know what that is, it's normally set up on 3D. Okay, but if you want to see the HSL, just click that tab, hit HSL. That way we can fine tune the colors. So now, let me explain this real quick. HSL. All right, the H stands for hue. All right, that's the color range that you select. The S stands for saturation. You got low saturation and high saturation. And the L stands for luminance. That's what's dark and that's what's bright. So the main thing we want to do once we do that, I know I don't want to grab really any yellows and oranges that are in my skin tone. So I'm going to adjust my HSL and I'm going to pull away from the yellows. And as I do that, you can see that my skin tones are starting to bleed out of the mask. And it's just affecting more of the trees and things around me. All right. And the more you work with this, the more you'll get better at it. It just takes practice, just like anything. But I assure you, you'll get better and better the more you work with it. All right, so I think I got a pretty good mask. So let me click on this View Mask again to revert it back. So now once I get back to my regular image, again, I'm in the hue and saturation curves. You come to this top tab that says hue versus hue. And when I change this, you should see the trees start to change colors. And just drag it down or up to the color that you want. And I want kind of that purple feel. And I like that. See, I prefer you to do it on the hue saturation curves, because you're not placing a color over what's green. You're actually going to that color and reprogramming it to look a different color. So it's always best to do the hue saturation curves when changing colors, and not just doing color wheels and just putting a color on top of it. You get a much better result when you do it this way. All right, so now I got the purple trees, purple kind of background. The next thing I want to do, I want to change this sky to more of a tealish aqua color. So I'm going to add one more hue saturation curves, and I'm going to go through the exact same process. I'm going to hit this tab, add a color mask. I'm going to drag across my sky. And the whole time that I'm working, I'm always paying attention to my vector scope and my RGB parade to really see what I'm doing with the image. And as you can see, this vector scope, this is the skin tone line. I want to keep my skin tones there. And these are the colors that I'm adding. All right. So when you got this Y shape like this, and the Y portion is complete opposite of your skin tones, you're going to create great separation. And that's the goal. So now when I get the colors that I want, and I need to go back to my previous hue saturation curves, but I'm going to do it on this one, then go back. I want to go to actually boost the saturation up a little bit on these colors that I changed. Let's go back to the previous curve real quick. And I'm going to do the same here. Now I'm starting to get a pretty interesting look. Now what I want to do is I actually want to start creating my look. So I changed my colors. Now let's start creating my look, start making it look a little bit more cinematic and a little more interesting. The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and make my skin tone stand out a little bit more. So what I want to do here is I want to actually add another color board. All right, and I'm gonna grab my skin tones with another color mask. All right, so now what I want to do is come to the color tab on my color board, and I want to come grab the gamma circle or the mid-tone circle, and I actually want to make my skin tone just pop a little bit more. So I want to add a little bit more orange into it. So you can do that two ways. You can either do adding orange or you could subtract blue. I prefer to subtract a little blue. That way I'm not adding color on top of it. I'm just removing a color, which has the same result, but you're doing less layering over the image. All right, my skin tones are really starting to pop. Let me toggle that on and off real quick. You can see the difference as I toggle this on and off. All right, there it went, caught up. Also, I want to come take my shadow tab, and I want to come add just a little bit of red in my shadows. Just a little bit, not too much. And always remember, the key is not to overdo adjustments. You want to adjust just enough to make a difference. Don't overdo it. So now, even to create a little bit more separation, what I want you to do, if you come down to this area that says mask, I adjusted everything inside of the mask that I grabbed. So what I want to do is make my everything out of the mask just a little bit more teal look. So I want to grab the outside, click the outside tab. Once I click the outside tab, I want to take this tab here, and this adjusts everything. Highlights, shadows, mid-tone. I want to come down, bring it to the cyan teal area, and I just want to push up a little bit in the teal area. And I also want to come over to my exposure, and I want to pull my highlights down just slightly. All right, and you'll see my skin tones just start to pop out just a little bit more. All right, now let's toggle this on and off. You see the difference? It's a slight adjustment, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so now, next thing I want to do is come add a color curve. Just a regular curve, and I want to adjust my Luma curve. I want to do my S curve. I like contrasty images that really make people pop out, so I love adding curves. I would highly recommend that you start doing this. If you're not, you don't have to, but this is definitely preferable to your color grading style. So what I want to do is pull down in my shadow area, mid-tone area, and you can start to see the separation happen even more. And I want to pull up in my highlights a little bit, and it just makes it more punchy, man. It makes it look more, I don't know, just buttery when you add the curves and when you do them properly. Again, don't overdo it, but this is subjective to what you want to do as a creator. Let me toggle this on and off, and you can see the difference that I made. That's no curves. That's with curves, and I absolutely love what the S curves do to the image. All right, the next, so we almost there actually. So my skin tone's popping out well. I got great color contrast from the background to the skin tones. So I want to do a few more things. I'm gonna add one more curve, add one more color curve, because I want my blacks to be a little bit darker without taking away any brightness from the image. So I'm gonna add a point all the way down here on my Luma curve. I'm gonna add another point a little bit higher. So I don't want to make my skin tones darker. I just want to make my shirt a little bit darker. And I'm gonna pull on this bottom curve. Just give it a little bit more pop. And I'm gonna crush my shadows just a little bit by pulling up on this bottom tab. And that looks good. I like that a lot. All right, last step. come down, add one more hue saturation curve. And I want you to scroll all the way down to Luma versus saturation. So I want you to add a point all the way to the end like this. And I want you to drag this back tab down, all the way down. And what that's gonna do is gonna bring the saturation out of my blacks. All right, and when I do that, it makes it more of a true black. So any processing that I did before that is basically erased, and my shirt looks more true black than before. And as I toggle it on and off, you can see a little bit of change, but again, all we're trying to do is make slight adjustments. So now this is pretty much it. This is how I do color replacement in Final Cut Pro. But I like, you know me, I always like to take it a step further. I gotta make it epic. So what I need to do, I'm gonna pull this up so I have a little bit more real estate to work with on my timeline. And I'm gonna hold Option, and I'm gonna click the clip, and I'm gonna drag up and add another clip. All right. So now I have two clips to the image, exactly the same. So I need to add a mask on this top one. Hit the effects tab over here, scroll down to masks, add a shape mask to the top layer. All right, let's give that a second to pop up. All right, so there's my mask. So first thing I want to do is kind of put a little more curve into the mask. All right, and again, this is subjective to how you want it to look at the end of the day. You don't even have to do this portion at all. Once I do that, I want to bring my mask in a little bit tighter to me. All right, and you want your mask to be somewhat large though, so it doesn't have, it looks more natural. And then you want to make sure you feather it. Give it a good feather to where you really want it to start blending. Everything outside of this feather line will have the effect added to it 100%, and everything inside the feather line will start to blend until it slowly gets to this area. All right. So now I have the mask on the top layer. So anything I do to the, what I want to do is add the effects to the bottom layer, because I have the top layer masked out. So with the effects that you're going to see is actually only happening to the bottom layer, but it looks great over the overall image. So the next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to come back over to my effects tab, and I'm going to come up to my blur. First thing I'm going to add is a prism blur. And again, you could do this to taste. This really depends on what you want to see out of the image. Get out a second to, all right, there we go. So I actually like what it already has in there, and you've seen the difference that it made. And then after the prism blur, I'm going to come down and add a zoom blur. All right, and I actually think that that is zoomed just a little bit too hard. I'm gonna bring both the prism and the zoom down slightly. Y'all forgive me for this computer's that going real slow. So this is my first editing laptop I ever owned. I'm on vacation, and we're trying to make sure we still be able to drop y'all some tutorials. All right, so let's bring the zoom amount down about halfway. About 21 is good. And also my prism amount, let's bring that down to about 10. All right, I like that. Let's go back to this top layer. I want to make my mask a little bit tighter. And there we go. That's the color grade tutorial for replacing colors in Final Cut Pro with a little effects to make it a little bit more epic. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in. This is the Film Goat, and always remember, love God, love people, and stay creative. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I'm out.